Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is John J Gaming on the mic here, coming at you with a brand new episode of the Earlham Team Builder Dynasty here on NCAA 14, and we got ourselves a big Earl football podcast here as we go ahead and recap how the season's going so far. Only our best season in the history of this program. We're undefeated as of right now. We're number 1 in the nation. So it's going to be a great episode. We're going to take a look at the top 25 polls, who we're going up against in the conference championship game, and doing a deep dive on them as well. And then also take a look at some high school highlights and JUCO highlights as well that just came in as well as take a look at what's left of our recruiting board. We signed most of our guys, but we haven't signed everybody just yet, so it's gonna be a great one. So make sure you smash that like button, hit subscribe, shoot, even hit me up in the comments as well. I love reading all of your comments. I do read all the comments that come in here, man. But with that being said, let's go ahead and take a look at some of the high school and JUCO players that we're currently looking at here in season number 5. So the first prospect that I want to go ahead and look at is 3-star corner Brad Mayhew, the Vidor, Texas product. Nobody was really going after this kid, but I really like what he can bring to the table overall, even though maybe not the best corner, 104th ranked in this recruiting class, but at the same time, he can do a little bit of everything. He is a balanced kind of guy, and that's something that I really like. What I want to see is, I want to see guys, in our defensive backfield being able to cover at least long enough for a defensive lineman, which I would say would be the strength of our defense over in season number 6. But, on top of that, I like guys that can be able to go ahead and make the tackle like that one right there. So Brad Mayhew, nice all-around corner. He might be one of our stars in season 1, since we are pretty thin in the defensive backfield as of right now. Another guy that I'm currently looking at right now is James Silva. He's a 3-star guy as well, but he has some really good size that I really like to see, and has the ability to return some punts for us if we need him to do that after the graduations of both Justin Burden and Frank Bowers as well. 6'4", 211 pounds. He can truck a defensive back, and that's something that I do really like to see. And the route running, it's coming along as well. To catch, the thing is, how athletic is this guy? We know he can jump in the air and catch one-on-one balls, but can he develop that speed of his? So I think he'll be a great wide receiver for us moving forward. After that, we'll head back over to our home state of Indiana. We'll check out Michael Stewart. He's 6'3", 247 pounds, and he'll lay some lumber out there too. We're really, one thing that we are extremely good at is we are extremely talented when it comes to run defense. Currently in at the very least, like in the top 5 when it comes to that, and Michael Stewart would be a great add to that as well. 6'3", 247 pounds, so we can't kick him inside. So he might have to redshirt in his freshman campaign, but there's some things that I like, in terms of his pursuit. That would be a great add. And finally, I think the person that I'm most excited about, even though maybe his recruiting ranking doesn't necessarily reflect that, is JUCO transfer Jeff Wheatley. Now, his JUCO season was, canceled, before, his last year of JUCO. So these are actually his high school highlights. But even in high school, you can see some of the traits in athleticism that makes me really excited about him. When I think of Jeff Wheatley, he reminds me of Miami Ugalde. The only exception is, from the get-go, this is also a guy that can throw the football really far. I mean, this is a guy right here. He's going to have 95 throw power. Now, he probably won't start as soon as he gets on campus. CJ Patton will probably take over for season 6. He's been waiting in the wings for a while, and in spot action, in the last couple of seasons, he's shown that, CJ Patton is capable of being the starting quarterback for us overall. But, that being said, at the same time, Jeff Wheatley if he has to come in as a backup, he can make some electric plays for us. My dream scenario is, it'd be a Patrick Mahomes-like situation. He sits behind Alex, like an Alex Smith type, which CJ Patton is, reminds me of Alex Smith. Who's not great, but, he's not going to lose games for you at the same time. And then, after the next season, whether he's a sophomore red shirt or, he's a true junior, he steps in and then just torches the college football universe. That's at least my dream scenario, and I hope it actually does turn out like that, because he would at least be the second best quarterback on the roster. He's certainly better than Orlando Layden, and that's even knowing that, maybe doesn't have the most size, only 185 pounds. I would like for him to have a little bit more weight, and he is undervalued as well, only a 2-star recruit. I'm guessing that's from the JUCO ranks, but this is a guy that could come in and win some games for us right away if we need him to do just that. So what's nice about some of the more notable players on our recruiting board is, for the most part, we have secured many of the players that we actually are trying to go after. Matter of fact, we really only have one person left that we can possibly try and recruit, and that's Johnny Butler. I said it once, he's would be a really nice add for us. Could start right away next season, got that A playing time, and no reason why. 77 pass block, 76 run block, nice all-around player. He is a little bit on the slow end, so he's not somebody that we can just kick out to tackle and hope for the best necessarily, but has good acceleration, has 86 acceleration. Strength you like to see a little bit higher, only a 73 though, but we're actually in a tight recruiting battle for him right now. The Naval Academy and Oklahoma State are both schools that are currently trying to go after this guy right now, and we're still in the thick of things. We had to use a couple of locks, to get back into this thing, but other than that, it's been a really close recruiting battle as of right now. I'm really liking how this recruiting class is really starting to go ahead and come together, even though it may not necessarily be the flashiest of recruiting classes outside of Jeff Wheatley, who we highlighted earlier in this episode. So with our recruiting class mostly solidified, let's go ahead and take a look at where we're at, in terms of our recruiting compared to other schools. And right now we're listed with the 60th best recruiting class. We have an okay recruiting class, and it's fine considering we're a 3-star school for the time being. We're around Kansas, around Kentucky. Franklin and Rose-Hulman, our former conference opponents, they're up in here. And then same with UCF, they got a 53rd ranked recruiting class. But yeah, we're actually just sitting right in the middle. Not the best recruiting class obviously in the country, but it's not the worst either, which is nice to see. And we have a bunch of 3-star players, and we're not technically done yet, but I don't see ourselves getting higher than 60. It'll probably be a low to mid 70s class when it's all said and done. But we don't need the best players, man. We're all about developing here at Earlham, so I mean, that's how we currently are. But while we may not be the #1 recruiting class currently being experienced here, I will say we are officially the #1 team in the nation after we beat Charlotte by a final score of 62-19. We are officially the only undefeated team left in college football as of right now. Notre Dame actually gets upset on the road against USC, and they fall all the way down to number 7. So if we can't get the college football playoff up on here, we would be taking on Air Force if the season ended today. But if we can't, we'll be playing against a slightly tougher opponent in the Arkansas Razorbacks. If the season ended today, of course, there's still some football left to be played. We'll see what Oklahoma to do. They can make a move. Air Force could make a move. Army could also make a move as well. I mean, it's really up to these 6 schools for 2 to 4 spots left, so it's gonna be a tight one. Looking at the rest of the top 25, Mount St. Joseph, a former conference opponent, they're 11-1 this season, and they're ranked number 11 in the nation. Cincinnati, who we actually blew out earlier this year, they're in the top 15 as well. They're number 13 And that loss to us is actually the only loss that they have as well. And they're probably the second best team in this conference, to be honest with you. But that being said, other than our loss, they've been doing really well over the course of this season. Just the divisional layout kind of screwing them over for the most part, and that is unfortunate. USC, who was ranked 23rd going in the matchup against Notre Dame, they move up 6 spots after upsetting Notre Dame a home game. But, I mean, an upset is an upset none of the less. And as we're rounding out the top 25, there's a couple of newcomers in the top 25 poll. Fresno State, representing the Mountain West Conference, they're in at 24. They come in 9-3 on the season. And the Syracuse Orange, surprisingly, they are 8-4, but they are now in at 25th, with Tennessee and North Carolina exiting the top 25 polls. So right now things are looking really good for us. It's really simple for us. If we win, we should be in. Now, who are we going to play in the American Conference Championship game? Let's go ahead and check that out. So in the conference standings, over on the east side, and like I said, it was, besides UC, it was pretty much a cakewalk for the rest of the division. It was not a good season for our division as a whole, besides us and Cincinnati, which, again, I think is the second best team in this conference legitimately. But, I mean, they're on our side of the conference, so they don't get the opportunity to go to a conference championship game. However, the Houston Cougars, who had to not only win but hope Tulsa lost, well, both of those things happened. Tulsa, they went out and played against Tulane for their very last game of the season, and Tulane blew them out. They won 38-16 against Tulsa, and that was huge because it opened the door for Houston to come in and go to the conference championship game potentially, and they took care of business, beating Memphis on the road by just 7 points, but they still found a way to get the job done. Other than that, Memphis, Tulsa, and looks like Tulane are all bowl eligible on the west side. So roughly half of the conference will at least be bowl eligible, but I don't think this is as good as the MAC, because it looks like the MAC actually had more bowl eligible, and that's even with a new quarterback. The other Patton brother, he actually goes ahead and graduates previous season. But man, that is crazy to think about, though. So yeah, it looks like we are going to go ahead and play against the Houston Cougars in the conference championship game. But let's go ahead and see what Houston is made of. We'll go ahead now and take a deeper dive into their roster. So now we go ahead and take a look at the update, or at least the roster for the University of Houston, as we are going to be playing them in the next episode. And at first glance, there's no solidified NFL prospects on this team. We got a few guys that could make it to the NFL after the conclusion of this season, but Aaron Harrison, Jeremy Frazier, and Brett Hunter are the best free players on this team, and probably are going to go ahead and at least be fringe NFL players. I don't know if they get drafted this season, but they might be late round picks, depending on how things turn about. But that being said, checking out the offensive side of the ball first, what I've first noticed is that for the skill players on the offensive side of football, it's really young as of right now. Their starting quarterback is Michael Mason, who's only a sophomore. This is actually his first year starting as well. Granted, he's not bad. 22 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, and then 6 more touchdowns on the ground. But they don't have a lot of depth right now. Behind Michael Mason, there's Robbie Spencer and Montrell Hayford, both of which are, not great. Robbie Spencer's okay for a freshman, but I mean, if Michael Mason gets hurt for whatever reason, they're going to be in a world of trouble, knowing how good our defense is on the defensive side of the football. Even in halfback is relatively young as well. They got a sophomore in Matt Walden, who is still transferred. He could not get a waiver to play immediately, so he's sit out for this season. They do have Cam Fletcher, who's a junior redshirt. And then backing him up is Jason Rhodes, who's been considered a star player, actually. I'm surprised they don't go with Cam Fletcher a little bit more. Maybe Cam Fletcher got hurt, and then Jason Rhodes made the most of his opportunity. But also for them, a lot of juniors and sophomores here as well. Not a lot of old players in that running back room either. For fullback, Chris Baker is going to start with Gerald Scales as the backup, but I mean, fullback's not really considered a skill position though. Over at wide receiver, they do have Mike Taylor. He is the leader of this wide receiver room. He is a 81 overall from, I believe, the same town as Jakeem Short, if I'm not mistaken. Graduated high school 1 year earlier than Jakeem Short. Taking a look at his career, he hasn't done much until this season. Being the guy, 68 catches, 1,000 yards, 2 touchdowns. But hasn't done anything beyond this season. He's an okay player. He has good speed. That's probably his best thing about him. 90 speed, 89 acceleration. Has good catching, not great catching, but does have some good catching ability. And won't put the ball on the ground very often. That's the biggest thing about Mike Taylor. As a more balanced receiver. They do have James Patton, who's a junior. He's from the Colony, Texas. More of a burner, more of a straight vertical guy, 94 speed. Adrian Archer, a 93 speed kind of guy. But in terms of actually playing the wide receiver position, this is not a great group of guys. I mean, they only have 4 wideouts that are above 70 overall. I mean, we might see some Michael Cooper and Ken Wilkerson at times, but I mean, if they're your 5th, 6th wide receiver, may not bowl too terribly well for you. For tight end, it's even a worse situation, as the normal starter Franklin Parsons is actually injured and will not play in the conference championship game. So they're going to be leading on guys like Sidney Davis, Lee Smith, and Ricky Justice, who are all true freshmen. These guys were all in high school last season. Yeah, these tight ends aren't great. They're athletic for sure. They all have good speed to work with at the end of the day. But they're not going to be guys that are going to necessarily help out all that much in the run blocking game, even though Sidney Davis is listed as a blocker. Now, for the strength of this offense, I would have to say is the offensive line. They got a senior at left tackle. They got a senior at left guard. They also have a senior at right guard, and then they have another senior at right tackle. So 4 to 5 seniors, or 4 to 5 players on the offensive line is all seniors. If they do have a weakness, is James Jackson, which is a 69 overall. Nice, obligatory nice, right? 6'3", 298 pounds for Richmond, Texas. But other than that, though, this and Jackson as well, this is his first year playing. He's done pretty well. 16 pancakes versus just 1 sack given up. But this is a really tough offensive line, man. This might be one of the best offensive lines that we went up against over the course of the entire season. So our defensive line, who has really done some good work this season overall, I think is going to meet its match here in the conference championship game. We'll have to see how that plays out. Gonna need our linebackers to step up. So Nate Hunt, Seth Gray, RJ Greenlake, Josh Brown, those 4 guys right there, they're gonna really need to step in and fill in those gaps. So it's because it's not gonna be guaranteed that we're gonna get penetration on this offensive line, and that's particularly for run support as well. Moving over to the defensive side of the football, we check out what kind of defense that they're going to be running. Their best defensive lineman is Chris Robertson. He's a senior redshirt, 6'2", 325 pounds. So he's a big behemoth. Not known for tackling the quarterback though. Only 2.5 sacks over the course of his entire career thus far. More somebody that tries to plug in as many holes as well. Not usually the one that's finishing plays. Although senior year, he has stepped up a little bit. 19 tackles, 10 of which are TFLs. and another 21 assisted tackles on the season. Behind him, not much depth though. We got 2 juniors that are in the low 70s, and then they have a walk-on in Billy McMillan from Petal, Mississippi. He's only around simply because, not enough depth on the team. So that tells me they're running a 4-3. Over on left end, they got Ricky McFarland. He's a 78 overall, representing Spring Hill, Louisiana. He's okay, but he's not somebody that I'm necessarily worried about. And then same thing for right end Skylar Lever. He is considered one of the defensive captains on the squad. The Park City, Utah product. Having a good season. Might be a little bit of an overachiever though. 7 sacks on the year, 33 total tackles. On top of that, he does also have a forced fumble on the year so far. So, punching above his weight, it seems like for this kid, able to do some good work. Meanwhile, in the linebacking core, and I'll tell you what, this linebacking core is not all that bad. It might be the strength of this defense, to be honest with you. At left outside linebacker, they got Nate Perkins from Angleton, Texas, a 6'3", 230-pound guy. He's really stepped up his junior season numbers. 38 tackles, 52 assisted tackles, 2 sacks, 7 pass deflections, so he can get his hands on the ball. Has an interception and also has a fumble recovery on top of it. He's really quick, man. 88 speed, has 99 acceleration, a good tackler as well. Not the best in coverage though, only 78 zone, 70 man coverage. So if we can get him in a one-on-one situation, I feel like our receivers can do a good enough job of route running that, we can take advantage of him there a little bit. But he is a very athletic linebacker, and he will be good in run support. The best linebacker, and Aaron Harrison was the guy that I was talking about earlier as one of the best players on the team. No reason why, man. 87 speed, 91 acceleration. Also does a phenomenal job of recognizing, whether it's going to be a run or a pass. His 91 play rec, 88 block shed, 80 tackle. He has a ton of hit power too, and 91 hit power. Oh my. So he can lay some lumber on the quarterback, but I don't know. It just seems like he doesn't necessarily, I thought he would have more tackles, but that hasn't necessarily been the case. Does have 28 tackles, 29 assisted tackles as well. So I guess close to 60 tackles. Also has an interception, has a defensive touchdown, has a forced fumble, and then on top of that has a fumble recovery as well on top of it. So yeah, that's something to think about. He's a guy that's just all over the field, and it just goes to show that, this outside linebacking core, or linebacking core for the most part, is athletic. One weakness in this linebacking core though is Clayton Paris. He's only a 76 overall, and then on top of it, only has 76 speed. So if we get some runs over on his side, CJ Holman, I feel pretty good either for CJ Holman, Jesse Green, or Miami Ugalye, making him miss just because of the disparity of the speed in which, those 3 guys have compared to Paris. However, he does have 96 acceleration, so while he's not the fastest linebacker, he can accelerate quickly to his top speed. So then we go into the secondary for Houston, and another one of the top players who could be an NFL player, we'll just have to wait and see what happens to him, is Brett Hunter. He is the #1 corner from Gainesville, Texas. Great speed. Checking out how he's doing this season, having a great year overall. 21 tackles, 27 assisted tackles, has 4 interceptions, a forced fumble, has a recovery. He even blocked a kick, and he also has found the end zone as well. So Brett Hunter is their do-it-all guy. I wonder if he has any return stuff. Does he return stuff? No, he does not do any kick returns or anything like that. But Brett Hunter is a ball player, man. He, knows a thing or two about, making some plays. 91 speed and 87 acceleration. So those are good attributes, but that's not what concerns me the most. 98 man coverage, 97 zone coverage, and then 99 press to go with it as well. Decent catcher too, 65 catching ability, has 87 play rec, 92 pursuit. Good against one-on-one as well. Has that 84 jump. And it's not necessarily undersized either. He's a solid 6 foot, 179 pounds. So, yeah, Brett Hunter, Jakeem Short's going to have a handful with Brett Hunter on the outside. You know, we're going to have to ask our other wide receivers to come back. And also, hopefully, Derek Blue does return to the lineup. He's been dealing with a broken tailbone injury, but he's been doubtful for all of his time. Hopefully the extra week helps him out, you know, maybe, even though he may not be 100%. But checking out the rest of this, I guess the cornerback room, they got some speed on them, don't get me wrong, but that being said, they're not the most talented corners. Brock Williams is a perfect example of that, who I'm sure will turn into a great corner. I'm sure he'll be an NFL caliber corner a couple years from now, but I mean, for the time being, still needs to work on the coverage skills, but he's a guy that relies on the speed, 95 speed, 91 agility, 93 acceleration. Same thing to a lesser degree for guys like Blaine Scott and Jason Lowry. And then also Isaac Jordan. You know, they all have good speed. They're not going to get burnt that easily, and they like to all hit hard, but they're not fundamentally sound with covering corners. Although, like I said, it seems like it's a pretty young team overall. These four guys right here are all sophomores, so a couple years from now, they're going to be some dogs. I'll tell you what, if they stick around and continue working hard. But, I mean, it's right now, you know, they only have one corner, and that's Brett Hunter. At the safety position, it does get a little bit worse. While they do have plenty of safeties, they're not great safeties. Joey Williams starts at free safety. He's a 79 overall. The Chamat, Louisiana prospect. He's, like I said, he's above average. Wouldn't feel great to have him as a starter, but he can make some good plays for you. And then also at strong safety, they have Rodney Sherman. He's a senior redshirt, so he has experience, but he only has 83 speed, which is not great for a safety, I guess. Is really what I'm trying to say. He is somebody that could potentially get burnt deep if he's caught out of position, because he's not going to be able to catch up to some of the faster receivers that we have on the squad. But he does provide senior experience overall. Knows the system. Will be able to at least, I guess, not embarrass himself, but he's more of a stopgap while we're waiting for Ryan Williams and Kevin Dahl to develop. Finally, for the special teams, they do have Ricky Scott as a kicker who has 69 speed. Nice. He's an okay kicker. He's hit 65% of his field goals on the season so far. Does have 10 touchbacks on the year thus far. And no reason why. You know, good kick power, has 81 kick power, but not the most accurate. That's probably why he only has like 65% for, you know, his field goal percentage this season. Only 73 kick accuracy. That's not great. But he's not that slow for a kicker though. 69 speed, 69 acceleration. Both of those are nice. Has 67 agility too on top of it. So he's not as much of a liability after he kicks the ball off, you know, in terms of, you know, covering the actual kick. And then finally at punter, they actually have a true freshman in Michael Jackson. Yes, that was the default name. I didn't create this guy. Don't keep in mind, right? Michael Jackson, he's a true freshman and not very good, man. He can't kick very far. Should get some short punts to work with, whether that be Frank Bowers returning kicks for us, or it's Justin Burton stepping in and, you know, making some punt return kicks if Frank Bowers just happens to need a breather at the end of the day. He does have a boot of 59 yards. That is his longest punt, and does, you know, do a decent job of doing coffin quarter in his freshman campaign. 16 of his punts inside the 20, 9 of which being touchbacks. Has not had any punted blocks. Ooh, say that 3 times fast, you know. But yeah, his average punt is only 42 yards. I'm not really scared of him. So one last thing that I wanted to go ahead and check before I end up ending this podcast is I want to check out the award finalists here for, you know, this season. And as of right now, we might be bringing in quite a few awards this year. Justin Byrne and Chris Ty are the top 2 in the Bednarik, and he's not even the only 2 players from Earlham. MJ Granson snuck his way onto the Bednarik finalist list. He's deserved it, man. 2 interceptions on the year. Also has a couple of sacks, 9 TFLs. You know, he's a guy that's been out there able to get the job done. Just having 3 players in the Bednarik finalist list on the same team, that is really awesome to see, and I am proud of the work that all 3 of these guys been able to put in. For the Nagurski, though, Chris Ty currently is leading the pack as of right now. You know, leading guys like Barrett Jones from Defiance and Chris Henry from Tulane, for example. Chris Ty, though, you know, he's been doing some good stuff this season. Really stepped up his game from... He's had a solid freshman season, but he's doing even better this year, though. 50 tackles, 33 TFLs, 12 sacks. Also has a forced fumble and 2 fumble recoveries. And 3 pass deflections that could easily have been interceptions, too. He can't catch. He really cannot catch whatsoever. I mean, I can't even see his catching ability as of right now, but I'm going to assume that it's not very good whatsoever. Now, I was hoping that maybe Finn Otis would also be on here as well, because he has double-digit sacks, but, I mean, Chris Ty leading the Nagurski, I definitely love to see that. Meanwhile, for the Walker Award for the best running backs in the country, CJ Holman's currently on top as of right now. He's been having a good year overall. 200 carries for 1,100 yards, 260 yards receiving, and 20 total touchdowns. We have to chase guys like Eric Walker, Scott Campbell, and Terrell Turner thus far. Although you could make an argument that we should be above Terrell Turner, but that's probably because of the SEC bias. Yes, I said it. Fight me in the comments. I don't care. But Eric Walker and Scott Campbell have both been doing their things for the most part. They've been balling out this whole season. So I don't mind them being ahead of us necessarily. But it's nice to see CJ Holman get on the finalist list in his senior campaign. He's currently a long shot, I would say, to make it to the NFL. But, I mean, he could be a late round pick when it's all said and done. So we move ourselves over to the Lombardi Award, and as of right now, Chris Ty is also leading this group as well. So he's currently leading in the Nagurski, he's leading in the Lombardi, and if I'm not he was second place in the Bednarik. So Chris Ty, he's certainly looking to go ahead and add a bunch of trophies to his trophy case. You know, it's been a good year for our defense. When you only allow, you know, around 10 points a game, even with the last 2 games that we've had, it's been really awesome to see. And they have definitely, you know, I'm really definitely proud of what Chris Ty and what the rest of his defense been able to provide. Now, for the best linebacker trophy, you know, he's not necessarily, you know, up there, you know, leading right now, but Josh Brown has gotten himself on the best linebacker list. And having a good year doing so as well. 56 tackles, 10 TFLs, got a couple of sacks, and also an interception as well. And he's always been that type of player that has, you know, stepped in. Never a great player, but he's always been consistent in going about what we need him to do. Right now has a couple of sacks, has an INT. Also has a fumble recovery to his name as well. We'll see if he hits that 60 tackle mark once again, which he should be able to be honest, because we going to have at least 2 more games. You're a linebacker, you can't make 4 tackles in 2 games. That would be tough to see. But, you know, Josh Brown's been doing good, although it'd be not very likely that he wins this award. For the Jim Forpe Award, Justin Burden is leading in this as well. You know, showing more of his, you know, stats in the kick return and punt return game. But, you know, he's been doing some good stuff. He has stepped back up from a little bit of a down year after he won the Jim Forpe Award back in season number 3. Justin Burns got 67 tackles, 11 TFLs, has a couple of sacks, couple of INTs, does a little bit of everything, even has 3 forced fumbles, which is really nice to see. And that's also with kick return duties as well. We do ask quite a bit from him there. MJ Granson, though, doing some good work as well. Currently number 6 on the list, on that Jim Forpe Award list. If he stays for his senior year, which he should have the opportunity to go ahead. And meanwhile, for the Groza, and this goes to the best kickers in the country. And Jacob Ramos, rightfully so, is up there. 23 for 25, has a long of 55 yards, and is perfect on his extra points. He has only missed, 3 kicks in his entire career here at Earlham College. The best overall player that we've brought in thus far, and definitely can see why. If Jacob Ramos does not go to the NFL, keep in mind he has one Groza Award from last season already, and he might be set up to get a second one. If he still doesn't make the NFL as a kicker, I am going to absolutely riot. You heard it first. He should be an NFL player. Like, if anyone deserves to be the first NFL player to come from Earlham College, it's this guy right here. He's definitely put in that work. Finally, for best returner, we do have Frank Bowers at the very top, and rightfully so, has 4 total touchdowns on the season, 400 kick return yards, 800 punt return yards, being able to find the end zone 4 times in the same season. That just shows how electric our special teams unit has been. But at the same time, they'll have a little bit of controversy here. Justin Burden is down to number 8. How is that even possible? I know he doesn't have as much yardage as some of these other players that are on the list, but my guy, he has 4 touchdowns right now, and might have had a couple more if we actually kept him in the game all the time. We do we're a little bit liberal with our backups. I will admit that. We might, pull them a little bit sooner than maybe some other YouTubers would. But that's just because I know it's a long season. We need him for this postseason run that we're about to make right now. Trying to be as healthy as possible. But man, Justin Burden being robbed here a little bit for the best returner award. But Frank Bowers is still on top at the very least. He'll probably take home best returner. So next episode, we will go ahead and in our first season of the American Conference, we are going to the American Conference Championship game. We are taking on the Houston Cougars. We're 1 game away from going to the National Championship game. Can we take care of business so that we can get our first National Championship appearance, or are we going to fold? That's just something that we're going to have to find out next time out. But in the meantime, though, if you're enjoying the Big Earl Football Podcast, you enjoyed this video, I do need you guys to do me a favor, and please smash that like button, hit subscribe if you have to be brand new as well. This is John J. Gaming on the mic signing off, but I'm hoping you're all out there having a wonderful day. Take care, everybody.